Pattern. Repeated lines, colors, and shapes.
My wonderful artist, it is time for our art chant. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1. Lines, lines, lines. Shape. Color. Texture. Form. Space. Value. It's time to find out which art element we're going to use this week.
This week, we're going to be thinking about why artists need to take care of their supplies. Are you taking care of your art supplies at home?
Hello, my wonderful artist. It's Miss Price here. I have some colored paper. I have pink and blue and purple. This is going to be a sky. So just think about whatever kind of color you want for your winter sky. If you have paint at home, this is an excellent opportunity to use some paint. If you don't have paint, you can use whatever you have at home for art supplies. You could use oil pastels. You could use white crayons. You could use chalk, right? Now, I have a straw. I'm using a straw because I can throw it away when I'm done, or I can wash it, but it also makes an excellent stamper because we are going to be making snowflakes. So you just dip your straw, or you could use the end of a paintbrush or the end of a pencil. Just be sure it's okay with your grown-ups, whatever it is that you're using, and you want to make snowflakes. Now notice I am dipping my straw straight down and then straight up, and I'm doing the same thing on my paper. I'm putting it straight down and then straight up on my paper, and it's making a stamp. Some of my snowflakes are circles, and then where, can you see that? Yep. And then where there's more paint, it's more like a ball of snow. Okay, now I'm going to set this aside. See here. Okay, I have this lid right here because I want some bigger snowflakes. So be sure it's okay with your grown-up, whatever it is that you're using. You want to okay that before you start painting, okay? And I'm just going to stamp some bigger snowflakes. Look at those. Oh, and that just gave me an idea. I have another technique I want to show you. Stamping is a painting technique. A technique is how you do something. All right, now when you're done using your supplies, you've got to clean it up. That's part of being an artist, okay? Now, I'm going to take this, it's basically a piece of trash. It's like junk mail, but it's like a piece of cardboard, okay? It's already cut, so I'm just going to use this straight edge and put it down into my paint. I just dip the edge. Okay, now watch. I'm going to put it straight down and straight up, and it's going to print a line. And then I do another one like an X. It's the letter X. And then I'm going to cross it again and again. Look, I made a snowflake. All right, so it needs more paint. When it gets thirsty, you just dip it in the paint some more. I'm going to try another one right here. So straight up and down. Straight across, that's horizontal, and then diagonal. That's all 3 types of lines right there to make that snowflake. Let me try one more time, maybe right here. So vertical, horizontal, diagonal, diagonal. Okay. So I have my whole paper covered with different types of snowflakes now. I have some small ones made from the straws. I have one made from the bottle lid, or not just one, I have more than one made from the bottle lid. And then I have these crisscross snowflakes. So that's 3 different types. Now, before we go on to the next part of this project, we're going to have to set this paper aside and let it dry while we work on the other part. And I'm also going to go clean up my paint mess because part of being an artist is taking care of your supplies. So I'll see you in just a bit. All right, I'm back. I have my area cleaned up. My painting is to the side to dry. I have a lid on my paint so it won't dry up. And I washed my straw. And now I'm ready to start on the next part of the project. For this step, you're going to need another piece of paper. I have chosen colored paper for this part too, but you could do this with just plain white paper or even notebook paper if that's all you got. All right, so you're going to need your hand for this part and maybe a little help from a friend or a grown-up to help you trace if you're not that great at tracing. I want you to use a pencil for this step so you can erase your line, but I want you to be able to see my line on the camera, so I'm going to use a marker. For this step, you put your hand in the middle of your paper so you have space all around and a little bit of your arm too. Okay, now we're going to do a mitten. So usually when you do a handprint, you have your hands spread out like this, but this time you want to put your fingers together and your thumb sticking out. Press down and trace around the outer edge of your hand. All around. You don't want to get up too close to your fingers because then it won't make a mitten. So now I have a mitten. And I'm going to draw, I got this part a little bit too long. It looks more like an oven mitten that your mom would use to get the cookies out of the oven maybe. So I'm going to make it a little bit shorter here. All right, and that's okay because I think actually I will make this part my jacket. You know, like it's my arm and then my mitten is sticking out of my jacket. All right, so I'm just adding some details here. There we go. So I'm going to color this all black. And this part is going to be my jacket to keep me warm. I don't want to get it on my colored paper. I need a paper scrap to put there. Because I also don't want to get it on my desk. There we go. All right, so there's my mitten. Now, we need to think about what kind of pattern we want on our mitten. So think about, remember, pattern is lines that are repeated or drawn more than one time. So I'm starting out with lines. And it's also shapes. So what kind of shapes would you want on your mitten? Most of the clothing that we wear has patterns on it. Think about what kind of patterns you like to wear on your clothing. You might wear Paw Patrol or maybe Minecraft. Think about the patterns that you see on your clothing and try to be inspired by some of those patterns. Draw whatever sort of patterns you want. You need, though, some lines that are drawn more than one time and some shapes that are drawn more than one time. Notice how I didn't draw the whole heart because I ran out of room and it would just be on the other side of the mitten, so it's A-okay. All right, so I'm just going to continue drawing some patterns on my mitten, trying to fill up the whole mitten and make it interesting to look at. All right, the next step is to color your mitten. I'm using oil pastels for this part. I like the way they show up on colored paper, and you can blend the colors together with the pastels. So like I had red just now, and now I'm going to color next to it with orange because I'm going to make a rainbow pattern on my mitten, and I'm blending them in. When you're coloring with oil pastels, they're supposed to look like paint, kind of tricks the viewer. If you color thick enough with your pastels, they will look like paint. So give it a try if you have oil pastels at home. If you do not have oil pastels at home and it's okay with your grown-up, you can get these at Walmart. Sometimes I've seen them at Dollar General here in town. So you can go and get some if you'd like. Or you can use whatever you have at home. You don't have to use oil pastels. Be creative and use what you've got. It would be fun to do this with crayons or highlighters. I've been coloring a lot with highlighters this year. Super fun. I'm going to blend some colors to get the color that I want. All right, the last thing I'm going to do now that I'm done coloring, I want to leave this part blue, but I don't think it's going to look finished unless I outline everything. So I am going to take a black oil pastel and outline around the whole mitten. And then I bet you have guessed the next step. What do you think the next step is going to be? Well, after we clean up our mess from the oil pastels, gotta close this up. Okay, next step, cutting it out. Cut around the outer edge of your mitten. When you're cutting, remember that the hand that's holding your scissors doesn't move much. The scissors open and close, but my hand's not moving all around. It's my other hand that keeps moving the paper when I cut. I need to trim a little bit. There we go. Throw away my trash. But this isn't trash. This is scraps. I can save this for another project. So I'll put that away. And I'm going to throw away these little pieces right here. All right, now time for the next step. Okay, final step. I have my snowflake sky right here and my mitten. It's time to put them together using a glue stick or whatever you have at home. Mine's not quite dry, but I think I can still glue it down. Remember not to push it all the way up. You just need a little bit. Put it around the edge and one down the middle. And then think about where you want it before you slap it on. I don't want to put it up here unless I'm going to draw more arm down there at the bottom. There would need to be more arm right there. So I'm going to put it right here in the middle. And normally I would massage the back of it. I'd flip my paper over and massage it to make it stick. But my snowflakes are still wet, so I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to pat it right here. Not smack it, but just push it down so that it sticks. And there we have a snowflake mitten. And I just have a pretty good idea that I think some of you guys might want to do. So I'm going to get my paint back out. And another one of those pieces of junk mail that I folded. All right, just like that. And I'm going to make a snowflake print here in the middle of my mitten. And since I'm using paint, it's going to go over on top of my oil pastel that I used earlier. There we go. Maybe I want this one to be a little bit more fantastic. So I'm going to use this. I'm going to make this smaller and make some patterns. See how I did that? I just folded it smaller. Now I'm going to do some more stamping here. Remember, not any snowflake is the same. They're all different. So your snowflake pattern can look completely different. It can be unique, just like you are. All right, and I think I maybe want one more snowflake because those are just so much fun to make. You don't want to cover up your whole mitten because then we won't be able to see your beautiful artwork. But I think maybe 2 or 3 is not a bad idea. Take your time. I just smudged mine a little bit, but that's okay because snowflakes are unique. So I'm going to make a similar pattern for this snowflake, but I'm going to add a little bit to it here in the middle. There we go. All right, I think that is all done. I'm going to wipe the excess paint off into my paint. Put the lid back on. You'll need to clean up your paint however you use it at home. That's part of being an artist, is cleaning up your art supplies. So make sure you're doing that at home. And then, as always, don't forget to sign it like an artist. There we go. All done.
I hope you can watch this video again and follow along to make your own mitten with snowflakes. Don't forget, artists have to take care of their supplies even when they're at home so they can use their supplies again and again.